Hey, Kevin here from DIYDork.com. Today I'm going to show you how I made this really low ground level floating deck for the front of our house. Our entryway used to not have anything whatsoever, so you'd walk out the front door down about 12 inches onto the sidewalk, and it was just really awkward. So I decided to build a proper entryway for it. Now, I never built anything like this before, and I was kind of learning as I went, but it turned out to be a really cool project, so check it out. Alright, I swung our front doors wide open so you can see the really ugly entranceway into the house here. And I don't know why they designed the sidewalk the way they did, but they ended it halfway into the house, and then they have this porch thingy. And that chunk of concrete's in the way, so I'm going to have to bust that out with a jackhammer. But basically from the very front of the house out to the edge of that sidewalk is 7 feet. Then from that edge of the porch to that edge of the porch is 11 feet. So that's how big the decking is going to be, and that's how that's where I stopped the siding when we did it. You can see the wood siding here in the middle there. So I'm actually going to put a ledger board right there. It'll be a 12-inch ledger board. I'll have all my joist hangers on there. Then I'm going to have a bunch of joists going out this way, okay? And I think I'm just going to end them right where that sidewalk is. Of course, it'll be gone, but it'll just float right out there. And then I think I want my supports to be sunk in a little bit. Have 3 posts right on the ends, 1 in the middle, should be about there, and then have a beam that goes all the way across to support every single joist that goes out. And then from the front of the house, when you're looking in from the street, it'll just kind of look like the deck is floating, which I think will look a lot better than having, you know, posts right at the corner that you could see. If it was the back of the house, I think it'd be okay. Now, like I said, I've never built one of these before, but I've done a lot of research, and I think I know how I want to design it, so this will be a little bit different, so that's why it's more of a how I'm doing it. So first things first, I want to knock out this concrete. Alright, so here goes nothing. Alright, there we go, got it all busted out. That ended up being a lot quicker than I thought. I have a 4-hour rental on the jackhammer, and it only took about 30 or 35 minutes, so not too bad, pretty simple. Now, one thing I wasn't expecting was that the sidewalk is about 5.5 to 6 inches thick, and I assumed it was going to be around 2 or 3 inches thick. So the hole's a little deeper than I thought, but I think that'll be okay. So when I get a post here, you know, I can dig through there, and then the ground here, I have to dig one there and then one over here as well. And I may have to actually end up building a little bit of a trench to fit my my post. So I think that deeper hole may actually help me out in the long run. So I just took all that out, busted it out. I put a pile over there. I'll have to list it on Craigslist. But right now I think what I need to do is lay out just kind of the overall dimensions of the deck and figure out where the posts are going to land. So I think what I'm going to do is build some batter boards. So let me show you how I do those. And boom, by the magic of editing here, I have the layout finished. And what happened was I've been fighting in between bouts of rain. The weather took a real dive. It was supposed to be all sunny and nice this week, and now it's raining every day. So I just had to do this as quick as I could, but I can explain what I did. Alright, very first thing on both sides. Over there at the corner, where the top of the ledger board is going to be, I put in a screw. Alright, so that lays out the top. You can just see the line right here. That lays out the top of the decking on the sides. Okay, I just had loose string. The next thing I did was, see that really tall stick right there? That is exactly 7 foot out from the where the ledger board is going to attach to the house, and it's also level with where the side of the deck is going to be, where I cut the sidewalk and the edge of this old porch right here. So it's 7 feet out and level with that. And then I actually drew some lines on there. Now, where I screwed the string into where the ledger board is going to be on the house, from the house down to this old porch is 12 inches. Alright, now on that stick, I made a measurement at 12 inches and one at 11.5. And I decided to make the string go down to 11.5. So it's going to drop from 12 inches to 11.5 inches once it gets out to 7 feet. And that way, I got my porch here. When it drips and when it's raining, the water will flow that way instead of towards the house. So that's why I got laid out at 11.5. The other thing is that every single measurement is based off of that stick right there. So what I did was I just pulled the string taut until it touched the stick at 11.5, and then I kept going out further and I made these batter boards. Now batter boards are basically 2 stakes driven into the ground and then a stick that is screwed into them level. Okay, now it has to be the height of however high your decking is going to be. So what I did was like I said, I pulled the string taut till it hit that 11.5 inch mark, and then I made that stick right there 11.5 inches high. Okay, then I was able to tie the string onto there. So now I had a nice straight line that's exactly where I wanted. And if you notice, the batter board's kind of wide. That way I can pull the string either way to make this whole thing square later on. It's square now, but when I first started it was off. Okay, once I had that dimension, then what I did was I took that 11.5 inch mark on the batter board and I ran my level, okay, sideways, and I hit the stick over here. I had driven in 2 of them here, and I had to make that one big to fit over the sidewalk. All right, so then once I hit 11.5, I drew a line on that stick. Then I took my level and I leveled off to this stick, 11.5. All right, and then I put up a batter board across that way. And then I was able to tie and go all the way across here. And then I pretty much did the same thing over here, but I noticed that my ground is not level. It actually goes up 2 inches this way. So I couldn't just measure straight off the ground 11.5 inches. It was all messed up. My decking was actually going to be sunk into the ground because, like I said, it's unlevel. So what I had to do was base it all off of over here again. So I just stretched the string all the way over here, and then I hung a little string level on it, which is, one of these real basic little levels, but it worked fine. As soon as it was floating in the middle and I hit level, then I marked a stick over here. Now you can see it, I just have it laying because I took it out, but I made another one of these basically. All right, I did the same thing. I just made a level mark. I didn't even take measurements. I just made sure it was level, and then all of these batter boards here were based off the same thing. Then I was able to tie off the string here, go down, make sure it matched, and then I had to square the whole thing. So let me show you how I did that. All right, so once I had the general layout of the deck, strung out with the strings, I had to actually make it square. So the very first thing I did was the string that goes across this way, where it attaches to the batter boards right here. What I did was I measured from where it's going to mount to the house out exactly 7 feet, and I tied it right there. Did the same thing over here, from where it mounts to the house out to right here where it ties, 7 feet. And then I knew that line right there was exactly 7 feet, and I could slightly adjust it if I needed later, but for the most part I knew those were pretty much set. Then I had to figure out how to get the 2 strings here square. So what you do is you're able to slide the string sideways to make these even, and then you measure from right where that string crosses that string, right at that intersection, you measure diagonally over here to the exact corner on the house where the end of the decking is going to be over here. And then you do the same thing over there where those 2 strings cross that corner over to this corner. You got to make them the same. So what you end up doing is I slid the string in on that batter board a little bit, and then this one I just slid in just a little bit, and then that measurement diagonally ended up being 154 3/4 inches. So now this thing is perfectly square, and I have the layout. Right now it may be kind of hard to see, but I have a second string tied right here a little closer to the house. Let me zoom in, see if you can see it better. Okay, yeah, see the string right here? What I did was on this batter board, from the original 7-foot string right here, I measured in 16 inches. Did the same thing over there. From that 7-foot string, I measured in 16 inches. Tied a string across, so now I have a string inset 16 inches. What that's going to be is that marks the center point of the concrete footings and the support beam that's going to go across the front. Now the reason I inset it is 2 reasons. One is that I originally was just going to put in posts in the ground that were just inside the corner over here, just inside the middle board right there, and just inside the corner over there. But when you're driving down the road, I didn't want to see the posts, and I also didn't want to see the bigger concrete ring underneath. It might poke out from the deck a little bit. I didn't like how that looked. So I decided to inset it make the deck look like it's floating, like it doesn't have any support under there. And then I could also build it a little stronger. So what I'll do is I will sink in a concrete footing that would be, you know, dug into the ground, and I'll put in a concrete tube and fill it up with concrete and let it dry, and then I'll have these little brackets that will mount on there, and I'll put one in about where that post is, which is roughly 12 to 16 inches in from that, you know, that edge of the deck. I'll put one there. I'll put one dead center, and then same thing over here, about 12 to 16 inches in, I will put one there. And then, like I said, I'll have those brackets that I can then put a beam all the way across. Now, I haven't figured out exactly what size beam I need yet, because I ended up, this trench got dug a little deeper than I thought. So I had to figure that out. I also had to figure out exactly how tall to make the concrete posts so that the beam will meet the joists that go across and all that kind of stuff. And that's something I'm gonna have to figure out next. And of course, it's raining today, so I don't know if I'll be able to do that or not. But once I get that figured out, I'll explain it to you. But the cool thing about this beam is that every joist that comes from the house to that outer board out there, this beam will support underneath. So I think it'll actually end up being a stronger design, and it's hidden, which I like a lot. You know, it just look like this deck is floating out there and be a little more, you know, kind of a modern look or something like that. So anyway, that's what I'm gonna do next. I got to figure out where exactly to dig the holes and how deep and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, I haven't quite figured that out just yet. But once I do and I start working on it, I'll show it to you. Now, one more thing I totally forgot to mention was the actual trench itself. Now, if you saw earlier, you didn't see over here, it just looked like this over here. It was just the lava rock, and it had the wavy little plastic end cap and all that kind of stuff. So that was just basically a yard there, and then I tore out the concrete here. Well, once I tore all those concrete chunks out, I realized that this trench was kind of deep, and I decided that maybe the depth will actually help for that little beam I'm going to put across. Because of the height of this deck, it's so low that a good strong beam actually needs to be kind of low. So what I ended up doing was take my shovel and my hoe, and I dug out a trench the whole way. And I went out a couple of inches past where these outer strings are, so that my decking, when it's, I got 10-inch outer decking boards here, and you know, once they're mounted, I didn't want them touching the ground where they might start rotting. So I dug out the trench a little bit better. Now over here, they're okay. They will float above. You'll probably even see just a little bit of space underneath, maybe 2 inches or so. But once you get over here to this corner, it will look like it's in the ground. And that's just because the ground is so unlevel. So, like I said, I dug out the trench. And what I'm also going to do, is probably kind of hard to see from here, but I think what I'm going to do is the dirt here will be level to this concrete, but once it gets to the edge, it will slope down a little bit. And I think that will just help any water that gathers to go towards the front end and away from the piers that are a little more towards the center, because I don't want a lot of water sitting right there. So I think I want my water to go forward a little bit. And it will also help, like I said, keep these, you know, outer deck boards from actually touching the ground. All right, and then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put some of that, what do they call it, landscaping felt. It's like black paper, about 3 feet wide. And I'm going to put some under here so that it keeps all the weeds and grass from growing. And then we'll put gravel over it. And I think I'll actually have it go out past the deck just a little bit, maybe out to 8 foot. And then eventually our old landscaping here will be totally covered by that. It'll be, you know, that landscaping fabric. And then we're going to do some gravel and pavers and things like that. But for now with the deck, basically the old porch right here and the dirt ditch I just dug a while ago will be totally covered with that paper, and it'll be a bunch of gravel under there, just to keep it simple.